For me, initially, I just wanted to travel. I wanted to get away from Morocco and try new things. And I ended up in Russia doing medicine. I went from a dreamer, because I love football, into the real world. Medicine and something serious, maybe, during becoming a surgeon. He was like, don't worry, just start, take on small projects, and you'll figure things out along the way.
So what are your thoughts on Upwork versus LinkedIn for finding freelance projects?
So LinkedIn will come with more structured projects. So Upwork, it gives you the option to write a proposal. I do the proposal, I send my CV, and I send a video. So yeah, I'm Anas. I am a data analyst at the moment. I have a background in computer science. I've done some data science work, data analytics work with a major focus on data analytics and BI. I've been in the field for the past 3 years, but I've been exploring a little bit other things before that in software engineering, in engineering itself. I moved into the UK 3 years ago to do the computer science degree, and that's where I found this interest in data. I found that it clicked. I was good with numbers, with statistics, and the coding seemed to make sense to me more than the software development kind of coding with all the JavaScript and Django and all those things that used to be so confusing to me. Because what's interesting when you do work in data analytics is that you clearly see results straight away. When you do manipulations, when you get those numbers, those statistics. So that made me fall in love in the topic, and I kept digging and digging and sharing content about it on LinkedIn and YouTube until we met, and here we are today.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to learn more about your story. I know that you started in medicine. At one point, you were starting architecture. You moved from Russia to Morocco to now Wales. You did
Yeah.
freelance. Like, I know there's a lot of details in your story, and you didn't know exactly where you would end up or that you'd even end up where you are now. So I want to learn how it is that you realized you should take each step that you made.
Yeah, I mean, initially when I finished high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was very young, I was 17, and I know a lot of listeners these days. I have a lot of students that come to me, they're 17, 18, 19 on LinkedIn, asking me, what should I do? What should I pursue? And honestly, when I was that age myself, I didn't know. I just knew I wanted to try things, and for me, initially, I just wanted to travel. I wanted to get away from Morocco and try new things. And I ended up in Russia doing medicine. So the thing is, we all could use a little bit of orientation, especially in terms of career when we're younger, but we don't get that. I didn't get that. I was just dreaming of becoming a footballer, and all of a sudden, boom, I finished high school. What do? I need the skill sets. I need to work. I need to earn money. I went from a dreamer, because I love football, and by football I mean soccer for your American audience, into the real world. Medicine and something serious, maybe, during becoming a surgeon. So luckily I had parents that were very tolerant and that accepted the fact that I was trying and failing without judging me. Because for my first 2 years, I did 1 year of medicine and I failed. And then I did 1 year of architecture back in Morocco and I failed again. And then I ended up doing engineering because my dad is an engineer himself. And I thought it's best to pursue what he did because I can get his support, his help, and maybe I already got that mindset, which ended up being the right thing at the time. And I did that for 5 years. And alongside that, I had like a event business. I used to DJ and invite artists in Morocco. So I was trying to live my life fully, and I never really focused too much on what can I do professionally. I just thought at some point it will click, but it never did. And even with a full master's in engineering, it didn't click to me. When I finished after 5 years, I thought this is not for me. So I had to again find my way. And I was already 23, 24 at the time. And it seemed to my friends that were already starting professional work, it looked really silly. They're like, you're going to go to the UK, start all over again. You already have the skill set in engineering. Why don't you stick to it? You can be really well paid and have a good life in Morocco. But I was like, no, I want to try something else because it didn't click. And 23, 24, I'm still very young, so why not? Plus, the mindset of people around me was a very fixed mindset. You know, the kind of people that are satisfied with what they have right now. They don't talk about growth. We only talk about films, football, like very surface level things, you know. Nothing against that, but when you do it all the time, there is no progression in your life. So I thought moving away to a new challenge and coming to the UK would push me to become a better person, you know, because I'm not in my comfort zone. Everything is new. I have to learn the language. I have to get along with people. And when I came here to study computer science, I fell in love with the module of data science. That's where I discovered it. I knew about it, but I didn't put it into practice. So when I found that one out, I went all in. I started to talk about it on LinkedIn. I started to do projects. I was the best in my class, I think, because I really enjoyed it. You know, I was just asking my professor, staying there longer. The rest, I couldn't care less. That's where I knew that, okay, there is something there.
No, that's awesome. It's cool to hear about your struggles because someone who comes across your profile on LinkedIn or your YouTube channel, they'll probably think that you've always had it figured out because
Hmm.
now, like the content that you're making is so put together and you are clearly really knowledgeable about data science. So to hear that backstory, it really helps people understand that it took a lot of work for you to get to where you are and a lot of failure and a lot of not knowing what it was that you were going to do and figuring it out. So I think it's really cool to hear about that. And loved learning more details about your story. So thank you for sharing. A few months ago, you made a video about ChatGPT tasks, and
Hmm.
your ability to use AI is really important in this day and age. And like your ability to prompt and to get really great answers,
Yeah.
uh, more and more is dictating your ability to be successful.
Hmm.
And there's this other feature that ChatGPT has, which is making tasks. And I personally haven't really used it. I know that
Hmm.
you've used it, you made a video about it, and I think it's been 6 months since then. So I'm wondering, um, how has your use of that feature evolved since then?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting feature that ChatGPT released. They've been releasing others since, like the study mode and the agents. But the tasks one is very simple if you think about it. It's just a reminder they send you a reminder in your email, and you can just go and read whatever you asked it to do. So, for example, for me, I try to keep up to date with AI breakthroughs and news. So I just prompted ChatGPT tasks to send me every evening at 7 p.m. What happened during that day, the top three or top five AI news, and it does that for me. It's like my personal journalist, and it just sends me whatever I want. And you can program it to do anything. For example, with my wife, she does marketing and things, and it sends her every day 3 tips in marketing that she should be aware of. And every evening, it takes her 3, 4, 5 minutes to read it, and she always stays on top of what's happening in her field. So you can use it any way you want. You can even use it as a personal training coach that every day at 6 p.m. sends you a detailed message motivating you to move from your couch and go to the gym. You can do that, you know. So just think of it as you can make it anything you want, schedule it at a specific time, either to motivate you to get more information, or do some research for you, anything that you would personally do on ChatGPT, but on a schedule.
Okay, yeah, that clarifies things for me. So it's more of like um you giving ChatGPT the ability to send you a message on like a schedule about a certain topic or
Yes.
yeah, like that. So with regards to agents, have you been using agents as well?
So I did a few months ago, but just in a curious exploration way. So as many people I think in tech, I at some point fell into the trap of thinking that I should be following all the trends that pop up every day. and AI agents was one of them for sure. I think it was 3 or 4 months ago, and I was following this YouTuber, and the content was really interesting. He was using a tool called N8N, and it's like a workflow automation tool where you can build AI agents. And I really dug into it. I joined his community. I was doing some small projects, but then I sat with myself and I thought this completely deviated me from my original goals, because I have goals, that things that I try to improve in data science, in machine learning engineering, and I got so distracted by AI agents that I completely dropped my main goals. And that's something a lot of people might that are listening to this might fall into, and it's something I always try to fight, to not fall for hypes unless it does make sense in my journey. And AI agents, they do make sense in my journey, but not right now. Right now I know that I have priorities, and it's like I do have this mental roadmap of things that I want to achieve. And if the roadmap has, let's say, 10 different points, AI agents can be on the point number 8 or 9. Right now I'm still in point number 2. So me jumping straight in there, I'm missing so many things that come in the journey. And what happens is, you might be familiar with this, on LinkedIn especially, there are a lot of AI influencers, but those, they have one thing in common. I'm talking about those that are quite famous. They minimum had 6, 7 to 10 years in data science, machine learning, engineering first. They have good background in engineering before jumping into RAG and AI agents. And those people, they already have those steps that I'm going through, they have them. So this one was just the next logical point to them. But for people like me, I'm not that experienced. 3 years is not massive experience. I cannot jump into AI agents, or if I do, I will do it on a very surface level that will not benefit me. And I will stay in every field on a surface level, and therefore my value to the market will always be average. And I don't want that.
No, that's a great point. I'm not at the point where I could really benefit from studying AI agents. I think that's why I haven't really looked into them myself. And there's a lot about data engineering fundamentals that I currently have to learn. And it's not as exciting, but it's going to give me more leverage to focus on these things first. So I
Yeah.
think that's really wise of you. And yeah, like how you prioritize your time is so important. Um, I saw that you use something called the 222 rule to help you, I guess
Mhm.
that's like throughout your day, but it sounds like you have like an overarching like um strategic uh plan for what you're going to learn over the course of years and months um with regard
Months.
to your
Yeah, I mean, time management is a topic that I love, and I read a lot about time management. There was a book, a very interesting one. It's called Energy Management, not Time Management. It's like a long title like this one. And this one is very interesting because my energy levels are different from yours. You might be very productive in the morning, but not in the evenings, or in the afternoons, you still feel okay, but I do feel tired. So uh, our energy is different. So instead of always thinking of time, combine it also with energy. And that technique, the 222, that's something that evolved a little bit for me, but I still keep the same principles. So the way my energy works is that I'm very productive in the morning. I know most of people are. I am myself. So in the morning, I try to take on the most challenging tasks, and those are the two. I call them the two main priorities that you have in that morning. So the two main priorities, put them where you have the highest energy. It doesn't have to be the morning for you. If it's the evening, put it in the evening. People that like to work late at nights, they can put those actions in the evening. The next two are important actions, but less demanding in terms of energy. So, for example, for me, I can film a YouTube video. It's demanding, but it's less demanding than doing some coding in the morning, for example. So I can still sit in front of my camera and try to deliver a good video. And that would be my second two actions that I do during the day. And lastly, the last two it's more of, I call them maintenance tasks. It's just replying to a few messages here and there, creating a thumbnail. I kind of enjoy it. So for me, it's not a task. I just put it in there with a coffee or a drink. I'm like designing. So I split my actions like this. So if I have a task list and the task list has 10 things, I will choose the top two, put them in the morning. The next top two, but less energy demanding, I'll put them early afternoon, and the last two that are not energy demanding at all, I'll do them in early evening. And obviously it can be two tasks, it could be three, it could be just one. It depends on what you do in life, and what's your work. But it's just a matter of always combining time management with energy management. And I feel like that's something not many people talk about. They just talk about how to squeeze in everything during one day, but they don't ask you how do you feel after 2 p.m. once you have like a big task to deliver, you know.
Such a great point. Yeah, it's really not about time at all. It's about energy. And
Mm,
um, I did notice, like, yes, for me, mornings are definitely my most productive times, energy-wise, where like whatever it is I focus on in that morning, I give it the best energy.
mhm,
But I learned from you that there's actually a spike in the afternoon that
mhm.
you get a little mini spike of energy that I wasn't aware of. So that's pretty interesting.
Yes, I mean, you could feel it sometimes, and this again depends on whether you work indoors, you work outdoors, even the how much you eat for lunch as well. It does affect your energy levels. So that's why I say it's not a one size fits all. It really depends on the way you feel throughout the day and your energy levels, and the emphasis on the maintenance tasks, doing them last when you have less energy or you're less focused, is very important, because if I start my day with the maintenance tasks, they end up taking a lot of my energy because they're scattered everywhere. Usually maintenance tasks, they're disorganized, they're everywhere. It's a lot of emails here, a lot of messages to answer there, a lot of scrolling on YouTube to find the next ideas for my video. And they seem as if they are not energy demanding, but they are, because it's multitasking, it's been everywhere. And what happens to lots of people, they put them first in the day and they think they're productive because they achieved like 15 small tasks. But then when it's time to sit and code or sit and read like a massive book, and try to understand the concept, then they're like, I feel a little bit tired. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow, or they say, I just can't learn complex topics. But no, if you do the heavy stuff when you have 100% energy and do it every day, you will surely learn anything. And leave the rest later when you're already tired, then start scrolling and do the things that don't demand that much energy from you.
And there's another layer to this that I've noticed. So
Hmm.
part of it is yes, like your actual energy level throughout the day, like on a biologically speaking. And another part of it is your intuition telling you what it is that you should actually be focusing on.
Yeah.
So for me, I recently went through a phase where I was obsessed with data science and I was studying machine learning, statistics, Python, and it was really like I was really obsessing over that. I had a lot of energy to learn that. But recently, I've shifted towards marketing, writing online, sales. And if I were to try to continue to force myself to put in the same number of hours that I had previously been putting in into studying data science, I just wouldn't have the same level of energy as I do when I ride my quote unquote obsession that I currently have, which is
Mm,
writing online, marketing, creating content. I think it's really important to recognize within yourself what it is that you want to do and let yourself do it. And you're going to get so much more out of yourself that way.
definitely. Mm, definitely. The trick though, or the trap, is sometimes doing the boring stuff is what brings the results. And it doesn't have to be always like coming from passion. Like I sit sometimes and I learn some topics and I'm like, oh my God, this is kind of boring, and Just to understand the fundamentals, I have to read some very complex books or going through documentation, and it doesn't give me much energy. But I know that in order for me to master what I do, it's not always shiny. I have to go through those learnings that don't feel as good. And the trap is, and I fell into this one many times, is that as long as when I start something new, I feel excited. And then at some point it fades away. It's like the honeymoon phase of learning something. And then you decide to jump into something else because it looks cool again. It went from data analytics to data science to AI agents to RAG, because every time something seems shiny because you don't have it yet in your pocket, it's like your belongings are not enough anymore. You want the new t-shirt or whatever. What happens in this case, and I'm not saying it's for everyone, but you end up having an average level in so many things, and therefore you cannot provide value in any one of those. You're like, I do understand this, I do understand that, but I'm not confident enough to be able to deliver results for you. So pursue your passion, definitely. Try to be passionate about what you're learning. Find ways to build a lot of interest, because it gives you energy to sit a lot and learn. But a mastery requires to appreciate the boredom of repetition. And people that spend 10, 15 years doing one thing, they can attest to that. And I'm not yet there, I won't pretend, but I know that I have to go through the boring nights many, many times in order to become really good at what I do. And it's not always very exciting, to be fair.
I agree. There's a fine line between listening to your intuition and focusing on what it is that your bottleneck is for what it is that you want to do, and jumping from one thing to the next just because it's cool to do something new.
Mm,
I think one key here is that what it is that you even want to do in the first place. So if your goal is to be um, the best data scientist there ever was, to be like Michael Jordan of data science, then
mhm.
your intuition, like, you're spot on. You have to sit with data science and go deeper into the details of the aspects of data science and continuously um, study them. And if that is your ultimate goal, then I think you will be excited somewhat to do so and motivated. But
Mm,
um, I think that's the difference for me, is that while I'm passionate about data science, my goal isn't to be the best, the Michael Jordan of data science necessarily. Um, it's For me, it's more about entrepreneurship and to build businesses. And data science is a really important tool that I'm going to use to do that.
No, definitely. I just took a note of the Michael Jordan of data science because I just love this analogy, and you have this mental image of what you want to become. It's called the alter ego in coaching, and you kind of visualize that alter ego, someone that you admire for whatever, It could be Michael Jordan, as you said, for his passion, his grit, his energy, his emotions on the court. And when you sit and do your work, you think of yourself as that person in terms of all those qualities. You try to bring them to your work. That's something that I've read about a while ago, and I forgot about it. But now that you mention it, it's great to have that level of greatness in you, to try whatever you do to do it in a really good way, to give it your best shot. I'm not saying I'm Michael Jordan of data science at all, but my
No,
aim is to do the best I can. I think that that's the goal, always the goal. So it's good to have that mindset. That's why I'm taking a note so I can remember it.
well, I also think it's interesting because when I look at like the best athletes, I know you're a big fan of football, so we could use Messi, for example. He's the best for a while. He was like dominating football. Like, he was the
Yeah.
best, highest played, winning all the time. And like, if you look at his skill set, he's not very specialized in any one thing. I think he was kind of just good at everything, more or less. And that's why he was able to be so great. And then on the other end, there's certain players that they don't have that potential to be the greatest in the game, but they play a certain role and they know their role and they are specialized.
Yes.
So
Yes.
this is kind of getting into like your skill set, like what your goal is. Like, are you going to be, I guess, like, are you going to be a very know your role and do it better than anyone on your team or your company?
Mm,
Are you be the machine learning guy that does it better than anyone? Or are you going to be the best in the game and uh, I think my analogy kind of broke down, but something along those lines. But
yeah, I mean, in terms of sports, it's a more global. In terms of jobs, it's more specific to where you work, your industry. So you can't say I'm a better data scientist than you. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. I think the goal for me as well, as you mentioned, on entrepreneurship, being a content creator, being able to share the knowledge and the experience with other people, that's something that I really resonate with. And I think if I can do that and improve on that in a good way, where my message starts to reach more and more people and benefit them, hopefully, I think that's for me the best way to measure my level of dedication and work and success in this field, and not by the work that I do in my job, because that's limited to what I do, one niche, one industry, for one specific employer at a time, obviously, unless you do freelancing and small gigs and you can have a few. But what I mean is that you can't measure your level of greatness with the jobs that you have. But if you spread the word, the feedback that you'll get from people might give you a hint if you're doing it well or you still need to keep improving.
yeah, so for you, it's not so much to be like the best data scientist. Like part of your aspirations are to be someone who communicates really well, who creates great content about data science, who spreads a message, and who's a great data scientist, and more other things that um, I'm sure there's other things that you'd like to add in there. So, like when we think about like who you want to be, um, I guess when we think about like mastery and what that means for you, like it's not quite so obvious maybe as um, studying the next thing about data science.
Yeah, for me, mastery is that, you know, becoming exceptional at one thing, being so good that you could, without preparation, speak about it for an hour or two. And you could explain it to anyone, whatever the age or the background. That's for me is mastery. And you see that when you go to your doctor, if you have a doctor that is a bit old in age, the way they explain to you what's happening in your body and why that molecule of medicine, what it serves, what kind of purpose, they simplify it so much that you feel like they speak your language, even though you didn't study 10 years or 7 years. So that's mastery. You become so good at something that it comes out of you. When you speak it, people can feel it within you. And it's easier to see it with athletes because they just become flawless in whatever they do. When you watch tennis and you see Djokovic or Nadal and you see those movements, they've done millions of shots to get to that level of flawlessness. And for me, that's mastery. The thing is, my whole life, I've been quite good at many things. I played tennis well, I played football well, I played pool well, but not to an exceptional level. I've always been to that good enough so that people notice me and say, hey, Anas is great at football, but never good enough to become like a pro or become like crazy good at what I do. Because every time when I was getting there, I wasn't disciplined enough to push to mastery. And that usually is after 2, 3 years of doing the thing, or even 4 years. And this time with data, I feel like I can push to mastery. And the good thing about this field is that I could evolve from data scientist to machine learning engineer to AI engineer. There are a lot of things to explore. You don't have to stick to one thing, but just doing it long enough to deliver some crazy value over time. That's the goal. That's what mastery is for me in this field.
I guess it's one thing to actually be a master, and it's another thing to be perceived as a master. And that distinction is important to consider. Um,
Yeah.
and I think there's a lot of people in data science who are so good at what they do, and they have no ability to communicate it. And
Mm,
it becomes really obvious when we talk about freelancing. I know that you have experience with freelancing, and I'd
yeah.
love to hear more about your experience, some of the projects you've done, and some things that have helped you um,
Hmm.
on your journey.
So freelancing, I have so much I can say. So I'm going to split the topic into two phases. I'm going to share my beginnings and how I benefited, and then I'm going to share why it's a good option nowadays, especially for technical people. So my beginnings, I started freelancing when I was in university. So I was still studying technically. And I have a friend of mine who is a senior data scientist. He used to live in Paris. He moved from there now. And he told me that it's a great idea to do freelancing because you can earn some side money and you get some experience. And I told him that I've barely done anything. I've just done some university, the classroom stuff and a few projects that, kind of pointless, but at the time, that's all I had. He was like, don't worry, just start, take on small projects, and you'll figure things out along the way. So I did, and I started to apply. Obviously, at the beginning, didn't get any responses. At some point, I started to not fake it, but if I could just do 50% of what was in the job description, I just apply for it. And I just tell them that, yeah, I've done other things in a very basic level. And I managed to get a few jobs. And I remember for a small job of like $500, spending like a full week on it, just for $500, because I promised them that I could do the job, but in reality, I could do just 40% of it. So I had to learn so much in such a short amount of time. So that first, the client is happy. And second, I don't look silly and I get really bad reviews. And I just started, it was on Upwork. So I did, got the first project, the second project, the third. I started to gain confidence. That led me to start writing about it on LinkedIn as well. So initially, I was underpaid. I was barely earning any money. So it was more of like side money, pocket money, if you want. But the experience that I started to get was very valuable because I started to gain confidence. I went from a state of maybe I heard about it in university in a textbook to I can deliver it, in a very basic way, but you can do the job. So if you are in that phase of you're just starting out, or you're in university, or you're considering even to become a data analyst, scientist, data engineer, just you're not losing anything by doing freelancing because you will gain some experience, and that experience can be used afterwards if you apply for jobs or anything else. And I remember that I ended up even putting on LinkedIn one of my freelance experiences as a professional experience. So when I started to apply for jobs afterwards, I used that freelancing experience that I had with the clients. It was like a big client in London. I used it as a proper experience. So it only benefits you to do freelance if you know how to leverage it overall. So this one I would say is the part of the beginnings. It took me a little bit of time to get clients, but at the time it wasn't like pressurizing. And I know a lot of people, they work full time and they slowly start doing freelancing on the side, So whatever your schedule, just try to fit it in if that's something that interests you. The second part, oh, sorry, you want to ask a question
No,
about
sorry.
this?
Go ahead. Second part.
Okay, so the second part would be why is it interesting and why do I recommend freelancing overall? So if you have a data science job in the US, in San Francisco, 200,000 K, obviously this is not necessarily for you, but for the average and the overall population that is aiming to work in data, why is freelancing interesting? Because overall there is a trend downwards in full-time jobs in data. and that's in the UK, that's also in the US and other countries as well. In smaller countries, the demand is increasing because countries are just catching up with the data evolution and the technology. So there is a rise in data scientists and data analysts, but overall, there's a decline. But there is an increase in contracts and freelance contracts. So a lot of employers now, instead of paying a full-time employee with all the costs associated with it, they prefer hiring someone for a specific mission of 6 months, 12 months. So there is a high demand in freelancing. And if you've already started and you have a few clients in your portfolio, a few projects, so you're very likely to get a better project based on that. Plus, usually it does pay better. So contracts, they do pay 2 or 3 times better than a normal full-time job. I saw in the UK, for example, you can get a data science contract that pays £600-700 per day for 6 months or 12 months, and that's quite a bit of money, especially knowing that in some of them you still have the flexibility of working remotely, working in your own hours. Some of them also offer hybrid roles, so there's a lot of benefits of doing freelancing. People might think that it's not safe. I would argue that jobs are not safe either. There have been a lot of people losing their jobs, and I was one of them at some point as well, with no specific reason. There have been a lot of layoffs. So jobs are not safe anymore. And I would argue that freelancing, if done properly, can give you more guarantee and more freedom than a normal job.
So, what are your thoughts on Upwork versus LinkedIn for finding freelance projects?
So LinkedIn will come with more structured projects. So when I have recruiters that reach out to me on LinkedIn, it is like a proper mission somewhere close to me geographically in the UK. So they target you. They're like, okay, we have this job that is based in South Wales, for example, in the UK, that needs a data analyst manager for 6 months. It's very structured. You know what I mean? So and in most of them, they require you to even go to the office or work hybrid. So it's not like a full-time job, but in a short duration. But they consider it the same process as applying for a full-time job in terms of process. But they're just there to fill in a gap of 3, 6 to 12 months, usually. Upwork is a little bit of a mess because you have different types of clients from all over the world. So you'll be working with Americans, Australians, Thailandese, whatever. You can get any kind of clients. That's what makes it interesting, because you can work in a variety of things, and the prices also can vary massively. So Upwork, it's unpredictable. To get constant and consistent work, it's very unpredictable. My contract is from Upwork, so you manage to get really good projects. I work with a Swedish company. I never thought I would, but here I am working with a Swedish company. Who knows, next time it might be an American company. The variety that you get from Upwork is what makes it really cool. Plus, no one expects you to work from an office. So you know that you are 100% remote when you work on Upwork. I would say 99%. You never know, you can find a few that require you to be specifically somewhere. But the freedom that you get from Upwork is unmatched. Plus, it's like a dating site. The better you get, and the more your profile looks good, you have a lot of hours there, you have a lot of money that stacks there, so you become more attractive to clients. And when you apply, they're like, it's like on LinkedIn, they look at your profile, they see a nice picture, some nice posts, and they're like, okay, this person is worth talking to. Even though we all tend to think that people don't judge a book by its cover, people definitely do judge a book by its cover, and you better have those good reviews and a good profile and good projects that you worked on. So definitely two approaches. LinkedIn, I would say, more pro structured. Upwork, a little bit scattered and messy, but if you know how to filter well and search well, then you can definitely find some good projects as well.
Do you have any tips for how to filter and search well on Upwork to get those good projects?
Yeah, I do, and it's one of the videos and LinkedIn posts that are coming this week or next week. So I was gonna call that section "Search Like a Pro." That was like the section part. So on Upwork, you can filter by keywords. So you can search, for example, data analysts, or by skill set, for example, Power BI, Python, Pandas. You can filter by this. Let's say we search by data analyst. You're gonna get a bunch of jobs. So first, what you're gonna do is that there are filters on the left if you're using a computer. So you have a bunch of filters. It's like when you are on booking.com and you have 4 stars filter, breakfast filter, that kind of filtering that you do on Booking is the same. So first, put only clients that are verified, that have a verified payment. So you don't read the jobs from people that didn't even verify their accounts. Second, aim for clients that have 4 stars plus, so between 4 and 5 stars, they have a good reputation. And three, aim for a client that has earned over $50,000 minimum. So a client that has a reputation of hiring talents for a long term. And then it's a matter of reading through the requirements, what's the hourly pay, and it's when you just filter by those things that I said and only looking at the latest ones. So if you see that it's like 2 weeks old, just forget about it. The latest, ideally 1-2 days. And there's a cool option. If you click on one job, if you scroll at the bottom of it, you can see how many people applied, and sometimes you see that only 10 people applied or less than 10. So if you did all those filters and the job is interested and you see only 10 people applied, you're just 1 out of 10 people to get the interview. And if you apply the right way and you spend a little bit of time, you can even send a video on Upwork, which I always do. I send a personalized video of myself explaining how I can solve the problem with my skill set. Then usually you're very likely to get a few interviews here and there. There's no guarantees, but if you do all these things, you increase your chances of getting a job.
So that's kind of a big tip there. You take a video of yourself walking through how you would explain the problem and like what
Yes.
or something, and then you send it to them, and then uh, do you also do like a write-up as well, or just the video is enough?
No, it's both. So Upwork, it gives you the option to write a proposal. You have to write a proposal, it's called. So in that proposal, you explain who you are and why you're the best fit to solve whatever problematic. So that's one thing. So you need to try to sell your skill sets and yourself really well. That's something I'll try and cover as well in the YouTube video, how to write those proposals. Because there is a structure that worked for me a little bit, and I try to emulate this one every time I apply. But the video is like goes with it. It's like a combination. So I do the proposal, I send my CV, and I send a video. So when the client opens my application, he or she sees everything. He sees a CV, a proposal that has my LinkedIn and my YouTube and GitHub links if they want to explore more what I do, and a video of me, because everyone likes to see how you speak, how you look like in real life. It makes them feel like they can trust you. And anything that you can do to make people trust you just opens up doors for you to have that initial conversation where you need to prove that you're good then.
No, I think that's gold right here. I wasn't planning to use Upwork to get projects, but after speaking with you now and one other person mentioned it to me, I'm definitely gonna start being consistent with applying for contracts on Upwork. Um, the other thing is that my idea for LinkedIn for getting projects there was not my idea was to reach out to people who could benefit from data analytics projects and but who aren't necessarily searching for them, and
Yeah.
to kind of like pitch them or start like increase their awareness as to how you could help them and get
Yeah.
clients that way. Because I know that there's the possibility to create some sort of to create projects that you get on Upwork but on LinkedIn with their user
Mhm.
base, and that they might even pay more on LinkedIn because they're not necessarily searching for data analytics projects.
Mhm.
Whereas in Upwork, it's like you're one of many and you're in a marketplace and everyone's bidding. So
Yes.
in LinkedIn, you have the opportunity to like brand yourself and like create your offer and like kind of probably charge a premium.
Yeah, I mean, your approach, I remember I tried it initially some time ago. I had less experience, to be fair. But what happens is that usually those that are not aware that they need a data analyst, for example, they usually like solo preneurs or entrepreneurs that just it's just them. So usually they won't be paying well. And when you tell them how much you charge, they'll tell you that they appreciate the offer and they will just keep doing what they do in their Excel sheets, you know. So in terms of you could get projects, yes. Are they sustainable, pay well, and long enough? When you speak to a one-person business, they usually can't afford paying a full-time data analyst to help them for 6 or 12 months, from my experience, and I can be definitely wrong on this one. So when you get a real contract from LinkedIn or a project from Upwork, you know that it's already a startup or a company that has an establishment and they understand their pain points and they know where you're coming to solve. You're not there to try and teach them how good it is to use Power BI to visualize whatever KPIs they have, but you come there to improve a system that is already there. I try to avoid those jobs when I am the only data person or I am the one that is going to build the whole architecture because one is there is nothing to base my work on. Two, the people that are hiring me, they don't know much about what I do, so they don't know if I'm doing a good job or not. And three, there is not much interest. You'll be building everything, and there's no one that understands what you're doing to tell you that it's okay or not okay, apart from the user experience and user using what you do. So I tend to try to fit in more into a global vision where I can add something to it. And usually those contracts, they do pay more.
I think those are some really good points and really valuable for me to hear. And I'm sure for people who are kind of considering like between LinkedIn and Upwork where to get their projects. I think those are
Mm.
some to consider. So thank you.
Of course, I mean, you can always use both, I think, you know, the one doesn't cancel the other. You can be active on LinkedIn as you're doing, sharing good content, being open to having discussions with people about potential projects, but being more active on Upwork in terms of applying directly for projects that you seem they're interested and do a few of the techniques that I told you to filter between the noise because a lot of projects are just noise, honestly, and you end up spending money on those connects. Connects are like tokens that you need to apply for jobs and you need to pay for them. So if you just keep applying randomly to a lot of jobs, it's not like LinkedIn, it's free. On Upwork, you'll keep paying for each one. So you'd rather pick and choose those that are really good, apply for them so that hopefully if you land one, you're happy about the project.
I was looking into it. I think it costs about $1 to apply for a job on Upwork.
So it's they use something called connects, and you pay roughly $15 for 100 connects, and each job is a different amount of connects. So usually they're between 15 and 20. So let's say for $15, you apply for 5 jobs. So it's like $3 per job or $2 per job, roughly. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely something to factor in.
Yeah.
Um, I guess for LinkedIn, you have to buy a premium account to get the ability to send connections with notes. So that would be like $30
Yeah.
as well.
For entry level people, I would just say to avoid just jumping on each and every hype that you find on the internet. We all fall for it, and we all want the shiny objects. We all want to do some really fancy AI agents that can solve our problems and go to the supermarket instead of us and fixing our car whilst we're asleep. People going crazy into what we can do with this new technology. But sometimes the boring basics are what people pay for. And if you look at contract projects, full-time jobs, you'll see that 95% of them still requires from you to know SQL, to know how to code with Python, how to do basic cleaning, how to do basic processing. The especially the data engineering work now gains a lot of value because people are tired of reproducing basic notebooks with zero value and not being able to run it and deploy it in the cloud for everyone to use. So stick to those boring basics, as people call them, and try to really get good at them before jumping into the next stage. Think of your data journey, whatever you start from. If you have more of interest in engineering and you like to dig deeper into the infrastructure, then go for it. If you're more into communicating with stakeholders and try to be close to the metrics and what's the impact, go for data analytics. And if you want more into predicting how you can improve your products via your work, then do data science. And one doesn't stop the other. You can at any time shift by just bridging the gap in the skill set. But don't start in engineering and all of a sudden you watch a video on deep learning and you throw everything you did to learn PyTorch. And then afterwards you heard that RAG is the new thing and people pay $200 an hour for it, and you drop everything to go and start doing that. You'll end up sadly being average at everything and not be really valuable in the market. So stick to one, get good at it, expand obviously, but just don't fall for the hype. I did, and I kind of regretted it. And these days I have more of a structure. I limit myself. So if I have an advice, especially for entry level people and juniors, because I can feel you. I've just been there, and I struggled, and I didn't know if I was good enough, if I could get a job. The market is getting tough, but you're not helping yourself if you don't become good at one thing first before jumping into another.
Definitely agree with you. I noticed that probably the most fundamental skill that is core to data science and the data profession is SQL. Is there a uh, fundamental skill set that you think people are overlooking commonly that you wish they would focus on more?
Yeah, SQL definitely for analysts, I would say. That's one of those that you need to know. I mean, most businesses have databases, and you need to be able to query to get the information you need. And even when the data scales, SQL is still a powerful tool to be aware of. But it really depends. As I said, I would say Python for me is one of those that works in all. When you go to the battlefield, you'd rather have Python with you, because you could do engineering, data science, machine learning engineering, AI. Most things are done with Python. So getting those Python basics right and doing a lot of application instead of just reading about it, that could help immensely. Because when you start navigating each and every concept, you find it easy to write code as long as you just understand what's going on. So I would say Python for data people is a must-have for sure.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything that you're working on, any projects you have that you'd like to speak on?
Yeah, so recently what I did is I wanted to bridge the gap of where I am right now and where I want to be in terms of professional growth. And getting into the AI ops is definitely one of those things that in the future I want to get into, getting good at, but I don't want to I don't want to burn the bridge. I want to do things step by step. So I set myself this goal, and this is just between me and myself, and is to do 10 projects, full projects, end-to-end projects, going from machine learning to deep learning and increasing the complexity of the data sets, of the analytics, then moving into RAG agents. So 10 projects done within 20 weeks, each project within 2 weeks, and make one video on it on YouTube, end to end, and one LinkedIn post on it, so that it keeps me accountable to keep pushing and not stopping in between. So it forces me to learn the skills and also teach them to people in order for me to improve. So that's my plan for the rest of the year, basically, for the next 5 months, for the next 20 weeks.
Oh, it's awesome. So the plan is when would the first video for this be released? Is it like upcoming like a week or two from now?
Yes, it should be. So I'm working on the first project, and when I finish, I'll need to package it properly so I can make a tutorial on it because it's quite complex. I'm not gonna do just a notebook tutorial. This will be an end-to-end project where I go over doing the analytics, but also doing Docker containers, fast API endpoints, ML flow for machine learning model experimentation, deploying to the cloud, building a UI and an interface to play around with the model. So it will be a very comprehensive, like a real world style project. And that needs a little bit of work. But the first one should be ready by next week. So when it's finished, I will make a video on it and even a LinkedIn carousel or something on it as well.
I'm definitely going to tune in for this series. So by the end of it, you should be, you said, fully like skilled at AI ops.
I mean, getting towards it. So I believe that the best way to upskill is to do projects and hands-on. I have a list of 6 books that I'm gonna order as well over time. Some of them focus on deep learning, some of them focus on Spark, some of them focus on LLM engineering, some of them focus on RAG and AI agents. So along the way, I will read, learn, apply, and do all these things whilst working a full-time job. So I mean, I'll try to combine all these things. If it takes me for a few projects more than 2 weeks, then I will do more than 2 weeks. But the aim for me, because I know myself, if I don't set a time and a deadline, I end up just stretching things too much. So I'd rather just put it as 2 weeks for each one.
I'm actually not that familiar with what exactly AI ops is. Would you mind briefly explaining what it is?
Yeah, AI ops is basically being able to deliver at a scale AI, either AI agents or RAG solutions, not just doing them at a demo basic level, but being able to put them in production. So that's basically what how I would define AI ops. It's just being able to build and scale AI applications.
And RAG has to do with the maintaining context about like what you want the LLM to keep in mind when it answers you throughout your
Yeah,
conversation.
yes, it's called retrieval augmented generation, and it's basically giving LLMs more context about your business, so that when you ask questions to your AI app or chatbot, it answers you based on your own database or your own content, and doesn't answer you from a generic ChatGPT answer. So yeah, it's basically just a smart way to retrieve data from your system in an application that you create.
No, that's really cool. Okay, yeah. So I'm really excited to watch that series and to learn with you. So if people want to find you, to keep up with your YouTube channel, to see you on LinkedIn, how can they find you?
So I am active on LinkedIn and YouTube. So you type my name, Anas Riad, whether on LinkedIn or YouTube, it's exactly the same, and you'll see me there. You can connect with me happily. I do share content on data analytics, data science, and anything that I learn along the way. So if I'm learning something, I will make sure to make a video on it and share it with people to benefit from.
Thank you so much, Anas. It was great to have you on this show, and I
Thank
look
you.
forward to continuing to see what you're up to on LinkedIn and YouTube.
Same here. Thank you for inviting me.